Hi, welcome back for some more chapters from the 14th Goldfish. Chapter 22, Growing Pains. My grandfather walks into the kitchen a few mornings later, carrying a bottle of pain pills. He pours a glass of water and pops a handful of pills. Are you okay? I ask him. He's pale with dark circles under his eyes. He doesn't look good. I've growing pains, he grits out, pointing to his legs. The T. Melvinus must be regenerating my bones. Does it hurt a lot? I ask. Let's just say I know what it felt like to be tortured on the rack. My dad's back in town for the weekend. He appears at our front door after lunch, wearing worn-out jeans and a black t-shirt and carrying his toolbox. Dad! I shout and fling myself at him. Reporting for duty, he tells me, holding up his toolbox. I hear there's a toilet that needs fixing. My father's handsome. I don't say that just because I'm his daughter. He's the kind of man who women stop and stare at when he walks into a room. He's got thick curly black hair and dark brown eyes. He's usually cast as the rake or the hero in a play. I miss working with my assistant. He winks at me. I brought your hammer. To pay the bills when I was little, my dad did carpentry work and odd jobs, hauling me around in my baby carrier. When I started teething, I chewed on the wooden handle of one of his hammers. It still has bite marks in it. Where's your mother? He asks. At the high school. They're having trouble with the light board, I tell him. She said you're cooking dinner. He looks around. You're here by yourself? No, Melvin's in the den. Right, he says. She mentioned something about some long-lost cousin crashing here. Well, he's got the toilet out of the way. Let's get that toilet out of the way. We settle down in the bathroom, and my father snakes the toilet and then takes the lid off and tinkers around with the insides. That should do it, he says. You want to do the honors? I flush, and the water goes down. You should have been a plumber, I say. He gives a wry smile. I would have made a whole lot more money, that's for sure. My grandfather walks into the bathroom holding the catcher and the rye. He freezes when he sees my father. You must be Melvin, my father says. I'm Ellie's dad, Jeremy. He holds out his hand. My grandfather doesn't reciprocate. Did you wash that hand? He asks. Toilet water is clean, my father says. Then drink it, my grandfather replies. We stand there for a minute, then my grandfather holds up his book. You gonna stand around yapping all day? My grandfather asks. I've got homework to finish. My father makes risotto for dinner. We sit outside on our tiny patio, and the adults drink red wine, and my grandfather and I have soda. Between the crisp air, the good food, and my parents trading gossip about theater friends, it feels like I'm watching a favorite television show. Except this time, my grandfather has a guest role as the silent, moody teenager. Or maybe he isn't acting. My father and grandfather have never exactly been buddies. When my parents first got married, my grandfather said some things to my father that involved the words punk, my daughter, and knocked up. Needless to say, there is no way we can let my dad in on the little secret about Melvin. My grandfather turns to my dad. So I hear you're an actor. How's that working out for you? Pretty good, actually, he says. The tour of my production has been extended for another year. That's wonderful, Jeremy, my mother enthuses. Congrats, Dad, I say. My grandfather doesn't look very impressed. He says, Lots of money performing in Peoria? I'm in the union, my dad says. I've got a great benefits package. My grandfather grunts. My dad smiles at him, faintly curious. You remind me of someone, he says. Really? My grandfather says. Who? Just an old guy, one of those grumpy types. Actually, you're distantly related to him. Guess Melvin is a family name. My mom and I share a worried look. Then, without a word, my grandfather gets up and goes inside. My father turns to my mother. Interesting kid, he says. Teenagers, my mom says with a careless roll of her shoulders. All clear, I offer and start picking up dishes. My parents beam at me. I stack the plates, and what I see when I go into the kitchen almost makes me drop them. My grandfather is pouring red wine into a plastic cup. What are you doing? I hiss. What does it look like I'm doing? He says and drinks from the cup. But you can't. Why not? He grumbles. It's not like I'm underage and I need something to dull the pain. My legs are killing me. The wine loosens my grandfather's tongue and he starts to make even more snarky remarks at the dinner table. To be or not to be 13, that is the question, he says. My parents are deep in conversation and don't seem to notice what's going on. We move inside because it's getting chilly, congregating around the kitchen table instead. I'm going to the bathroom, my grandfather announces and walks out. My mother shakes her head and turns to my dad. Were you like this as a teenage boy? I'm not sure. A puzzled look crosses my dad's face. Mostly I remember being embarrassed by my parents all the time. She changes the subject. So, Spill, how's Francois? She makes air quotes with her hands when she says the name. Francois, I know, is the director of Les Miserables. You mean besides having a French name but actually being from Long Island? I knew it was a fake accent, my mom says. Well, he had a good speech coach somewhere along the line. The toilet flushes. My father adds, also, his ego is bigger than a blimp. The toilet flushes again. Did you fix it? My mom asks him. I fixed it, my father insists. I think of all the pain pills Melvin took earlier. Worry spikes through me. Maybe we should check on him, I suggest. We find my grandfather hunched in front of the toilet, throwing up. Oh no, do you have food poisoning? My mom asks when my grandfather turns a gray face to her. My father sniffs and looks furious. Since when does food poisoning smell like red wine? Chapter 23, Pizza Delivery. My grandfather is grounded. Raj and I wait for him by the flagpole after school. He waits with me most days now. He says the betting money's on my grandfather getting detention again. My grandfather comes running up to us. He's wild-eyed and frantic. I know why they deactivated my key card. I know why they closed my email account, he exclaims. Raj and I look at him. The company's been bought. They're moving to Malaysia. Malaysia? I ask. It's all over the internet. Who knows what's going to happen to my TV Melvinus? They'll probably just throw it out. He slams into the bathroom the minute we get home. I decide to set up my microscope and try to lure him out of his bad mood. It comes with a set of prepared slides. There's a fern spore, a cotton fiber, a salt crystal, and oddly enough, a goldfish scale. I guess not everybody flushes their fish when they die. I look at the goldfish scale under the microscope. It's beautiful. A fan of color. I think of all the goldies. Maybe they would have lived if they'd had the T. Melvinus compound. Maybe we'd have a big tank of them swimming around. The doorbell rings, and when I answer it, a kid is standing there holding a pizza box. Pizza delivery, he says. His hair is in a mohawk, and he's got a few rings in his ears and one in his lip. Delivery boys always look a little sketchy, but they're the kids the malls don't want to hire. Hang on, I say, and call my grandfather. Did you order a pizza? Pepperoni, the kid clarifies. My grandfather comes to the door. I didn't order anything, he says with a frown. What street number do you have? I ask the kid. He looks at the slip in his hand and gives an apologetic smile. Oops, my mistake, he says and lopes away. As I watch him walk away, I remember my grandfather saying how the lab assistants like to eat pizza. I look at my grandfather and smile. I think I know how to get into building 24. I detail my plan to Raj and my grandfather at the lunch court. Raj dresses up as a delivery kid. He takes a real pizza and he gets buzzed in by the lab assistants. He drops it off, and on the way out, he grabs the T. Melvinus. That way, we don't have to worry about the security guard or the whole key card thing. Not bad, my grandfather says. I turn to Raj. What do you think? Would you do it? He doesn't hesitate. Sure, I'm in. And your brother, too, my grandfather adds. We need a ride. We plan it for Friday. That's the night my mom stays late to run lines with the actors. It should give us plenty of time to get to the lab and back home again without her finding out. It's perfect. Except that when Raj shows up on our front porch on Friday, he's alone. Ananda's car is in the shop, he explains. We stand around the kitchen trying to figure out what to do. He said it should be fixed by next week, Raj tells my grandfather. My grandfather is frustrated. I don't want to wait till next week. Who knows what will happen in the meantime to my T. Melvinus? So let's just take the bus, Raj says. Do you know how long it will take if we go by bus? We have to find a pizza place and get the pizza, then take 4 buses to get there and walk and... But I'm not listening to him. I'm too busy staring at my puzzle on the kitchen table. It's almost finished now. The bustle of the city, the people rushing down the sidewalk, the storefronts, the yellow taxi cabs. See you tomorrow.